Like many others, I bought Fallout 76 back when it released in late 2018 and was severely disappointed. The game was an absolute mess, not resembling a Fallout game at all, and by 2019 I had already stopped playing it. But credit to Bethesda, they have stuck with the game like a parent sticks with a misbehaving child, despite everyone else telling them how bad it is. Over the years, the game has been given constant updates, and although it's not on the level of No Man's Sky, even if it is ironic they released Starfield next, the game is seen in a much more positive light. So with the release of the Fallout TV show and the player count reaching an all-time high of over 1 million concurrent players, I decided to go back with an open mind and lower expectations to answer 3 questions. Has the game improved? Is it fun to play? And what the hell happened to my canvas bag? The game opens up with a cinematic explaining that you are a member of Vault 76, a vault that houses the best and brightest minds, so God knows how I got in there. The task of the residents in Vault 76 is to recolonize America 25 years after the bombs drop, so no pressure or anything like that. You wake up on Reclamation Day, the day everyone is set to leave the vault after a wild party the night before. Being Scottish, I can relate to that. You also wake up late. Again, I can relate to that. For some reason, no one decided to wake you and just left you there by yourself, so either my character is the biggest narcissist ever, or I'm just too great for everyone else. The character creation was fun. It is pretty similar to Fallout 4, letting you drag facial features and create a monstrosity. I also took a profile photo that appeared during loading screens and made me laugh every time I saw it. Then it was off to play the game. Of course I got distracted by the playable guitar in my bedroom. Then it was off to play the game for real this time. Okay, I got distracted by the video game on my computer. I almost left my room without taking my Pip-Boy. It's a good thing the game literally doesn't let you leave without it, and stepped out into the vault. The game's tutorial is pretty underwhelming, having you go through a maze of kiosks, collecting items, and reading tips on how to use them. On the way out, the game directs you to break into the Overseer's office and see where she went. You discover that the Overseer was tasked with a secret mission to secure 3 still functioning silos with nuclear weapons, and asks you to contact a faction called the Responders and help her. I don't know why I would help her when she couldn't even be bothered to wake me up. But anyway, I made my way to the vault door, which has a pretty cool opening that is slightly spoiled by the fact the gap to leave looks like a white filler in Microsoft Paint. The robot at the door saying goodbye to me in all different languages over and over did pull the experience back though, so I'll forgive the game for that. After stepping out into the world, you are presented with a choice. You can either start the game at level 20, or like the original, start at level 2. I chose level 2 because level 20 is for noobs. One thing that immediately hits you when you exit the vault is just how pretty the game can be at times. That's one thing you can't fault about the experience. The game reminds me of my ex. It's pretty, but it has a lot of flaws and repeatedly tries to kill you. Outside the vault, you're met with another robot who tells you there is 2 suspicious people hanging around the vault. So like any good Fallout player, I told them there was treasure inside, so they would waste their lives trying to get in. Then asked them to give me a weapon, even though I already had one. I don't know where I got the weapon from, it just kind of appeared in my inventory, but I used it to take down the ghouls near the vault, which unless I'm going crazy, I'm sure used to be robots. But then again, maybe that's just old age kicking in. I made my way towards a place called the Wayward, which the 2 people outside the vault directed me to. Across from the Wayward, I found a stash the Overseer had left me and directions on where to go next. I also tried out the crafting, which again is the same as Fallout 4, which makes you wonder how they could take so many elements from the same game, yet still make such a mess of it on launch. At the Wayward, I found a robot called Bessie that thinks it's a cow that made me laugh, then headed inside. I was shown a prompt that explains every time you enter one of these interiors, you go in alone and make choices unique to your game, which is the way they got around adding NPCs at a later date. So my first choice was to gun down a man who was holding up the Wayward without asking any questions. For all I know, he could have been the good guy, but it's my game and my choices. It turns out he is part of some raiders terrorising the place, looking for Crane's treasure, and they want my help. So like any good citizen, I agreed to help them. For money. Puppo has to eat. Their big plan was to make a sign that says Crane's Treasure Hunting Inc., like something out of a 60s cartoon. This made me remember how much I hated building things in these games. I totally overcomplicated it by trying to attach conduits to power the sign before realising all I had to do was attach one wire the whole time. The next part of my quest was to make my way to a radio tower to broadcast a message for the raiders to come to my sign. I seen another identical sign by another player along the way, so I hoped they wouldn't get confused and go here instead. I fought my way inside the tower and met the Scotch for the first ever time, the game's main enemy that the main story focuses on, which are humans that have been infected by a thing called the Scotch Plague and broadcasted the radio signal. I also met another player who was having a seizure, but that wasn't my problem to deal with. The raiders appeared and I managed to convince them to tell me where their hideout was using my strength skill, then killed them when their back was turned, and found a note on them telling me where their hideout was, which made speaking to them pointless. Back at the Wayward, the Duchess told me to speak to a farmer and a scrapper about the best way to deal with the raiders at their base, so I went to the farm first and told the guy I would save them, but he needs to start giving the supplies to me instead, like a true hero. He gave me a code that they use to get supplies inside the base. The other guy was a nightmare to find. I walked around a fairground fighting Scorched and could not find him at all, before realising he was up on the roof the whole time. He wanted me to steal an egg for him across on an island, so I agreed. I didn't realise I was going to a Deathclaw island to steal a Deathclaw egg, but I actually never saw any Deathclaws the whole time I was there, unless Deathclaws can now turn invisible, and if so, God help us all. The guy said something about hatching the egg and raising the Deathclaw on his own. I wasn't sticking around to see how that turned out. He did give me some stealth boys, which would have been helpful before I went to an island full of Deathclaws. After all that effort, I just walked straight in the front door, using the code the farmer gave me, but at least I got some free stealth boys out of it. I stole the raiders' belongings right in front of them and no one did anything about it, so I probably wouldn't have had to use one anyway, then made my way to their boss. I tried to immediately turn on the Wayward and offered to kill everyone there, but the raiders didn't want that. They wanted information about the treasure instead, so I agreed so I could turn on both of them and keep the treasure for myself eventually. I just hope none of them watch this video. Duchess wasn't happy that I agreed to help them, but said we had to find the treasure, and by we, she meant me, because I doubt she's programmed to leave that bar. She also asked me to help find her crew who are missing. This sounded urgent, so I thought I would continue with the main story instead and not return here for the next 15 hours. I followed the Overseer to a place called Flatwoods where she left a holotape for me to join the responders and do their tasks in order to get information, which included boiling some water and cooking a steak. I don't know how the computer knew I actually completed these tasks and never lied, but unlocked an emergency broadcast for all responders to go to their main base in Morgantown Airport, which was under attack by a large horde of Scorched. When I got there, it looked like the battle had happened a long time ago and all the responders were defeated, so I fought my way through the Scorched and even defeated a boss, which was literally just a Scorched with the word legendary slapped in front of its name. I found this old guy at the end of the dungeon looking for his brother and seen there was an option to rob him, but my skill wasn't high enough. I also found a tape from the Overseer who told me that the responders were working on some sort of inoculation and that I should pick up their work. The only question I had was how did this old guy and the Overseer get through all those enemies without getting spotted? When I got outside, World War IV was happening. I don't know what was going on here, but I did manage to find a lead on where to find the medical research by someone called Dr. Hudson. I also done an event where I had to fight against waves of Scorched whilst waiting for a supply drop. No other players came to join me, but the joke's on them. More canned dog food for me. At a railway station nearby the airport, I noticed some posters that unlocked side quests. One of them pointed me towards a nightclub opening, so of course I had to check it out. I actually expected to get there and everyone to be dead, but to my surprise, it was an actual nightclub with a singer and everything. I use the term singer loosely. She was booed off the stage. The bartender offered me a job to be a bodyguard. I agreed, then stole all of his alcohol from behind the bar. I didn't do a very good job. The main act was blasted off the stage before I could even get out my seat. I guess that's what happens after drinking 17 bottles of vodka. Then what commenced was the most awkward battle ever. I didn't realise how hard a shootout would be in a tiny basement. We interrogated one of the guys who died afterwards in a hilarious fashion. It turns out the family's daughter was addicted to a thing called devil's blood and was in debt to the mafia in Atlantic City. I didn't dare tell them that my blood is basically the devil's blood, as I didn't feel like being eaten that day. They asked me to help them, even though I just failed to protect their club 5 minutes ago. I agreed, but then the game wouldn't let me proceed because I hadn't completed enough of the main story yet. So I went to another party instead, a frat party at a university campus, to be the awkward older cousin that turns up uninvited. This time, everyone was actually dead, and it was up to me to piece together what happened. After looking around for a bit, and obviously playing some more guitar, I found this drink called Nuka Shine, and decided to test my gut by drinking it. This was a bad idea. I started to trip and hallucinate before blacking out. When I awoke, I was on top of a mountain surrounded by raiders, but the joke's on the game. I just fast travelled straight back. I then had to solve a riddle to find out where the Nuka Shine was being made, which is not what you want when you have a hangover. I did manage to find the place though, which was in a hidden basement of a tattoo parlour that the owner was renting out to university kids. When I say basement, I mean a full-blown bar that looked even nicer than the nightclub I was just at. There was also a distillery in the back with a drunk robot who was pretty entertaining. Of course, to find the secret ingredient to the drink, I had to find a code to get into a room, which meant I had to go to another university student's house, and to say he liked Nuka-Cola was an understatement. It turns out the secret ingredient was nuclear waste, so how the people at that party died is still a mystery to me. I made another bottle of the drink using the ingredients which the game made me collect. I don't know why they wouldn't just be lying about the lab, but I collected them anyway and completed the quest by getting the robot even more drunk. After this, I decided to press on with the main story. I made my way to AVR Medical, where another player had cleared out all the enemies for me. I jumped over a railing and hogged the computer to thank him, whilst he waited patiently behind me as I read every single log. I was tasked with collecting a sample from a ghoul to make a vaccine against the Scotch for myself. So I gunned down a ghoul and then ran all the way back. Again, why was there none of this stuff in the lab? When I got back, against my better judgment, I stepped into a machine and injected myself with ghoul's blood. I don't know why my character is this trusting. The person who had made the vaccine had left an automated message to play if anyone had ever completed it, to find a faction called the Fire Breathers. I don't know why she left this message or how much effort it would take to rig that up, but I just rolled with it. The Fire Breathers were pretty similar to the Responders and made me complete a couple of pointless tasks. First, I had to do an exam that asked me 10 questions. I tried it by myself and got 7 out of 10, so I googled the answers because I couldn't be bothered to hunt for them in the station. The second test was a running test around a track filled with super mutants. The first time I forgot to mark the quest and got totally lost before falling to my death. Then when I could be bothered to actually do it properly, I managed to smash the test with nearly a minute left. Then came the final test, which was actually really cool. I was sent into a burning mine shaft full of scorched and had to get to the bottom and ring a bell before making my way back to the surface. Dark Souls would be proud. I expected a massive fight after ringing the bell, especially after finding other dead candidates next to it, but 3 Scotch appeared. Maybe it's better all these people died. They didn't sound very competent. When I got back to the Fire Breathers base, I found another message, this time from a guy named Madigan, who said he had found something that could be game-changing at the top of the world. Judging by how weak these guys were, maybe he had discovered that guns exist. I decided to take a break from the main story and go to another side quest that caught my interest, where a poster claimed that a Sheepsquatch ate her brother. This is a cool questline that has you investigating what happened to someone's missing brother, who it turns out was making assaultrons for a company, but used one of them to try and track down a creature called the Sheepsquatch by downloading its behaviour into one of the assaultrons. The assaultron went rogue, and you eventually find it at the end of the quest, which triggers an event. The event has you activate 3 pylons before you can even attack the Sheepsquatch, whilst about 1 million robots appear and attack you. At one point, someone over level 100 and someone over level 200 joined in and helped me, and we still got wrecked. The worst bit about it is, if the person who activates the pylons die, they reset. I eventually gave up and went back to the main quest again, but wish I didn't, as I met the most annoying raider ever, who had locked the elevator at the top of the world and was refusing to let me up to my objective unless I boosted her radio signal. First off, I had to trek across mountains and find the parts. Then I had to craft the thing, and then I had to trek across more mountains to fit the thing. Then when you think that's the quest done, no it's not. It's only the beginning, of course. When you get up there, the person you were looking for is dead. But who has the information you need? Yep, that annoying robot again. Oh yeah, the raider who locked the elevator is a robot, by the way, since there was no NPCs when they made this. And no, she doesn't just give you the information, you have to do experiments for her, which includes shooting a bear with a syringe, which makes it stronger, and you have to beat it in 2 minutes. Luckily, I could cheese this by standing on top of a rock, since I guess these things can't climb rocks for some reason. Making and using explosive bait, which I missed with and had to sacrifice myself by running into it so the wolf followed me, and befriending a Deathclaw. Yep, that's right, the most dangerous thing in the wasteland. It doesn't go well. I was actually lucky again that a group of survivors came out of nowhere. I don't know why they were in the middle of a mountain, and I don't care why, because they distracted it long enough for me to get its health down. It did almost kill me, mind you, as I ran out of stim packs during the fight. Then you have to steal from a super mutant camp, which I ran through the majority of it, just to move on the main quest. And finally, kill and eat a ghoul, which the second part is optional, and I didn't even have the cannibal perk, so it seemed really pointless. You would think after all that, she would just give you the information, and I did, until I spoke to her again, and she dropped the bombshell that she now wanted me to collect different fragments of a key for all the raider groups to make a master key to unlock a treasure. To say I was pissed was an understatement. And by the way, it isn't just 1 or 2 fragments you have to get, it's 6, and they're all across the map. And you can only do 1 at a time, so you can't just grab them when you're nearby. After this, she makes you go and get a master holotape by someone who was captured, but when you get there, there's nothing there, and she tells you through the radio she planned to screw you over, but changed her mind. And I can tell you now, the treasure was not worth the effort, but then again, no amount of treasure would have been worth that. The only good thing is, you get the uplink you were looking for, but by this point, I'd forgotten what I was looking for. Oh, and the uplink is damaged, so you now have to get it repaired. By this point, I was done with the main story and remembered the last time I played this game, there was a really good side quest I'd done. The side quest is called Into the Mystery, and it starts when you find one of these women with a worn veil on that prompts you to go to a place called Riverside Manor. When you get to the manor, you're ambushed by mole rats. Well, I don't know if that happens to everybody, or if that was just me, but inside you find some old logs. The manor was owned by a person who played a superhero called the Mistress of Mystery before the war. After the bombs fell, they actually realised how well trained they were after a group of raiders tried to attack their daughter, and they managed to take them out easily. They spoke to their husband, who agreed they should train their daughter, who now saw her mum as a true superhero. They then mention in the last logs about taking any girls in who approached the house, and now we're basically running a post-apocalyptic orphanage. After reading through the logs, I was told to wear a veil in the front parlour. I don't know how my character knew to do this, but he looked beautiful, so I wasn't complaining. This opened a secret door into a set of stairs that led to the basement, and what followed was one of the coolest Fallout moments ever. The wall split in 2 and revealed an underground spy base for a faction called the Order of Mysteries. It turned out that the orphans that got taken in were actually being trained in this order to become deadly assassins. And the coolest thing about it is you actually get to join the order and even have a supercomputer called Kryptos. Your first mission in the order is to either find your new mentor the computer has assigned you, Natasha Hunt, who is out on the field on a mission, and assist her or wait for her to get back, as new members can't assign their own jobs. I opted to assist her, as I think I would be waiting a while otherwise. The questline has you uncover what happened to the faction whilst moving up the ranks, which is a really cool story, and ends with a big twist that the mistress's own daughter betrayed them and sold them out to a group of raiders before being betrayed by the raiders herself after killing her own mother. The quest overall was the biggest highlight of the game for me, and wouldn't feel out of place in any other Fallout game. Overall, I played the game for around 12 hours and enjoyed the experience. I felt like the main story was a drag at times, and the side quests are where the game truly shines. I can see myself continuing the game in the future as it has improved, and I did find it fun, which means there's only one question left. Where is my canvas bag? Thanks very much for watching. If you want to see more Fallout content, I suggest you watch this video next. And thank you to all the Patreons and channel members who continue to support the channel.